So be honest, you've probably at some stage thought that practices like meditation and concepts like mindfulness is a bit kind of woo-woo and some kind of hocus-pocus, right? Hi, I'm Sonia and I'm so glad you're here. Perhaps you've thought that mindfulness is for people who maybe aren't intellectually gifted or don't have a highly technical or important job to do in the world. It's a common misconception that the practice of yoga and meditation and mindfulness is something that busy and important people just don't have time for in their lives because it's just an indulgence, isn't it? It doesn't actually solve anything. Well, I'd like to propose that the opposite is true, in fact. So let's consider, as an example, the experience of anxiety. Lots of people these days report to have high levels of anxiety in our world, so it's a great example. So when people experience anxiety and any other uncomfortable or distressing or unhappy feelings, they often turn to distractions to feel better. So distractions help us with moving away from the uncomfortable or distressing feelings and emotions because they give us something else to focus on. So distractions like overindulging in social media or overeating foods that give us pleasure, as well as the weight issues that come from that. Drinking too much, and the potential dependence on addictive substances. Uncontrolled shopping, where products are bought even when they're not used. Over-exercising, even overworking. People tend to overdo these kinds of activities as a way of escaping the pain of existing with our feelings and emotions, like anxiety. Now, not everyone overdoes these distractive activities, but many do. That's why weight loss is such an issue. That's why credit card debt is such an issue, so on, things like that. So the issue is these distractive activities don't solve the underlying issue. Distractions are more like, putting a balm or a plaster over a wound. And in some cases, they can cause an addiction, which is an added problem in itself, when we're talking about, say, drinking to relax. So distractions can seem to alleviate issues like anxiety because we forget about it for a bit, for a while, while we're overindulging in those consuming things like shopping or eating or, social media, or, when we're disappearing into what's essentially a fantasy, you might say. We're escaping from it. And we're also rewarded by the spurts of feel-good chemicals from our brain. So these distractions get us away from those uncomfortable feelings for a time. But so often these distractions are really escapism, and they might be a one-way ticket to nowhere good. On the other hand, I suggest that mindfulness, rather than being a distraction or a way of escaping, is a way of relieving feelings of anxiety, for example. And at the same time, they're also a way of chipping away at and dealing with the underlying causes of that anxiety. Now, anxiety is when we worry about what might happen in the future, meaning anxiety is pointed towards the future. So being mindful by coming fully to the present moment is the best antidote to anxiety. If we can focus all of our being in that moment on some object or perhaps our breathing or what we're eating, really focus on it. Or how about, the socks on our feet, the feeling of the socks on our feet. Toe socks are really good for that. You can really feel that. Focus on that. Or what the carpet might feel like under our hand. When we're really present on a thing in the now, that reduces anxiety. So let's come back now to the concept of considering whether mindfulness is like being in la la land. Now this is really the question of what's the difference between mindfulness and distraction or escapism. Now, mindfulness is purposefully deciding to turn towards life with all of its ups and downs, its good and its bad, and being with it and embracing it, and in doing so, dealing with it. While escapism is sort of unconsciously ignoring the reality that is life and almost wishing it wasn't there. So mindfulness and distraction or escapism, they both reduce anxiety in the moment, but mindfulness accepts life as it is, makes the most of it, actually serves to make it better and more enjoyable and more fulfilling. So mindfulness also paves the way for healing some deep down hurts. Perhaps you'd like to ask me about that sometime. Now, unfortunately, distraction and escapism, it creates something that we think is life, possibly partly because everyone else is doing it, which doesn't make it right, by the way. But distraction and escapism is a poor substitute for a real life. Where a real life where we notice and feel and experience the earth and the wind and the fire and the ether. So mindfulness, it's when the simple moments of life stops us in our tracks. Anytime we stop and smile or feel peace, even for a fleeting moment, that's a powerful, mindful moment. And the more we pay attention to them, the more of them we'll see and experience. And the more we experience mindfulness, the calmer, the clearer, the more productive and successful we can be. So far from being anything to do with being in la la land, those who are mindful are much more able to contribute, to problem solve, to create and empower than you can ever believe. So look out for the mindfulness exercises that I share on this page and reach out if you'd like to connect. Thank you for your time here today. Lovely to be with you. Lots of love. Bye for now.